Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Live here at Recovery 2.0. My name is Tommy Rosen, and always an honor to get to connect with this particular group of people on a Monday night when we could be in so many different places, but we've all decided to be here together. The topic of tonight's conversation is essentially Himalayan wisdom. And what I really mean by that is yogic wisdom. And what I really mean by that, the wisdom that showed up when I was in India this year. And every year when I get back from India, I like to have a moment where we can download new information or really old information, information relevant to this particular moment, of course. And so this is that moment now for us. The way I'd like to begin tonight, if you would, is I'd like to begin with some breath practice. That'll set the stage. That's going to elevate all of us together. So if you would, please come sitting up nice and tall. And I'm just going to place my palms face up with my thumb and forefinger together. This is a mudra, a hand position. And this happens to be the mudra of wisdom. And so we want to drop the backs of our hands right on our knees and sit up nice and tall. If you're on a couch, just sit up so your back is not slouched against the couch. Palms face up, thumb and forefinger together. I'd like you all to just allow the eyes to close and go with me on a little bit of a journey. Take an inhale through the nose, long and deep and slow. And exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the mouth. And exhale through the nose. Close the eyes, focus to the third eye point. Inhale through the nose. And as if you're blowing out a candle, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the mouth, sipping in the air. And exhaling through the nose. Inhale nose. Exhale mouth. Inhale mouth. Exhale nose. Inhale nose. Exhale mouth. Inhale mouth. Exhale nose. Keep going. Inhaling nose. Exhaling mouth. Inhale mouth. Exhale nose. Keep going. Really settle in deep. Allow this to be the focus, just the breath. Inhaling through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the mouth. Exhale nose. Inhale nose. Exhale mouth. Inhale mouth. Exhale nose. Inhale nose. Exhale mouth. Inhale mouth. Exhale nose. Inhale your deepest inhale through the nose. And pause the breath. Simply pause. Exhale through the mouth. And hold the breath out for just a few seconds. Inhale through the mouth. And pause. And exhale through the nose. Keeping the eyes closed and relaxed, allow the breath rhythm to return to normal. Turn the gaze inside. Inward focus. Take a deep inhale. And a full exhale. And with the eyes open. Beautiful. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to be here. So nice to be here. Thank you for joining for Monday Night Live. We have a wonderful group tonight, and this is about really a sharing of some of the concepts, some of the ideas, some of the spiritual nuggets that arrived for us while we were in India. As you know, or you may know, I take a group of people in the Recovery 2.0 community every year to India. We usually go February, March, somewhere in there. I stay 6 to 8 weeks every year, and I really get my hit, if you will. I center myself and immerse myself in the teachings of yoga and the life path of yoga. There's an emphasis on practice, an emphasis on, in particular, sadhana, the morning practice that we do each day, an emphasis on meetings. By that, I mean our recovery meetings circling up in that beautiful unbroken chain, the way that we do. There's an emphasis on reflection, contemplation of ideas. We share a lot with each other. We experience quite a bit through our practices, and we place ourselves in front of teachers where we can also be guided and receive wisdom and input. And then we discuss that as well. Then there's the land, the physical place, an immersion in nature, also an immersion into the city when we go down to the city of Rishikesh. And it lends itself to this different conversation that takes place. A different conversation can take place. And I think that's why I go. I think that's why I go every year. Now, everything I'm going to share with you tonight is a distillation of what showed up for me on this trip, this particular last month, February, March in India. So some of these ideas come through my wife, Kia. She was one of the presenters that I was exposed to in India. So she's in the same energy that I'm in while we're there. And I sat in on her group as well. Some of these ideas come from our beautiful teacher, Anand Mehrotra, who runs the Sattva Retreat Center, who is kind enough to sit with us and share his wisdom and his teachings. Some of this comes from Sadhviji, our beautiful Sadhvi, who teaches, is a revered teacher, spiritual leader at Parmarth Niketan. Some of these teachings come from the energy and spirit and love and words and presence of Pujya Swamiji at Parmarth Niketan when we're there. And all the other people that were there too. Many other teachers, seekers, and finders. And all of this comes through down as a download also through my consciousness and the consciousness of those who were around me on our retreat and beyond that. So just to lay that out, this is coming from a lot of sources, but behind all of those sources, this is just coming from essentially spirit. So everything that I share tonight goes under the heading of take what works and leave the rest. Hopefully this will resonate. And tonight really has mostly to do with this concept, two concepts in particular. The first concept is the concept of evolution. And the second concept is the concept of forgiveness, not necessarily in that order. There was a time in my period of addiction, active addiction with drugs and alcohol, when I was really caught in anger and resentment. A lot of it toward my parents, a lot of it toward the world and others. On the outside, if I met you on the street, you wouldn't have thought me an angry person. If you met me just in passing, you might have thought me happy-go-lucky. Wow, that guy wakes up on the right side of the bed. What an energetic guy. But on the inside, something else was going on. And I'm speaking now about the period of sort of late adolescence and through my 20s. And so 22, I get sober. 23, I relapse. 24, I get sober again for the last time. So when I say through my 20s, we're talking about my early recovery and sort of the fluctuation of relapse. And then I'm speaking about into the beginning of my recovery, which would last until today and onward. The anger that I felt was obvious to me. I was aware of it. Even in my addiction, I was aware of it. And interestingly, I was also aware of the problem of it. And what I mean by that is that I recognized that I couldn't live a successful life and be this angry. I recognized that I didn't have a solution to my anger. I recognized that I hadn't forgiven so many people, including myself, for the things that had taken place. And I recognized that I was in tremendous, deep layers of resentment. And really, truly, I was aware that I am suffering. I am suffering and I don't know how to stop. And I'm so angry at, I'll just pick on my parents for a moment. Like, let's say I'm so angry at my parents for reasons I can't fully even understand. But I'm so angry that I don't know how to work this out. I don't have a solution for this. And as I was in my adolescent years, I thought subconsciously, if you will, I thought the angrier I am, maybe they'll take notice and they'll change, or they'll apologize, or I'll feel better, or something will happen because I'm so angry. Someone will come and fix it because they'll see how angry I am. And after a while, I recognized this strategy of how I was hoping to work out my anger is not working out. There were a few teachers in the early days who said things to me like, literally, can't you respect your mother just because she carried you in her womb for 9 months? Just because she brought you into this world? Can't you respect her, if not for any other reason, just for that? And I was so angry that all I could say to that teacher at that time was, wow, you really don't understand. You really don't get it. I have every right to be angry. What do we call that? I think that's called self-righteous anger. And it has no solution as long as a person is gripped onto it. And I was gripped onto it. Okay. So this is the foundation of tonight's discussion, that we have to work out our anger. We have to work out our resentment, and we have to work out our remorse if we are to live a successful life. How can we do it? Okay. So that's what tonight's all about. And I'm going to break it down into 3 stages that we see the yogi going through. The human being on the path of yoga, the human being on the path of recovery. If you know me by now, you know that the path of recovery to me is the path of yoga, that the path of yoga is the path of recovery. So what we see is we see the seeker. In yoga, we have a word for that. It's a word that means achiever, one who achieves, or one who is in the process of achievement, in the best sense of that word. And the word is sadaka. Sadhika. Sadhika might be a transliteration for that word. And the sadhaka, the one who is achieving, the one who's you might call this person, like we are, on the path of discovery. So the sadhaka goes through 3 stages. The first stage is the animal stage. And in the animal stage, it's this stage of conditioning, the stage of addiction. You might say that habit is dominant in this stage. Like Groundhog Day, the same thing happening every day. Same habits, same routines, same stuckness, very much in the frequency of addiction. And that addiction, of course, we know we're not just speaking about drugs and alcohol. We're speaking about the way that we approach life, the way that we think, the way that we behave, the way we show up in our relationships, our relationship with self, with the body, with our food, with the planet, our relationship with others in every way. So family, friendships, romantic, business relationships, every relationship we could have with another human being. And of course, the way we show up or don't show up in terms of our relationship with God or spirit, higher power, whatever your name for that is. So in this first stage of the sadhaka, the one who is on the path of discovery, or who has decided to be on this path, is this animal stage. Okay? And it's important that we understand what we're talking about here, because we're really talking about the dominance of habit. We're really stuck. You might say that evolution and evolutionary processes are not really happening. We're not moving forward. It's more like we're mired, stuck, or kind of in a tar pit, if you will. Second stage is the stage of the hero. Now, this is when the person who has stepped onto the path of evolution, this path of discovery, is now really, really interested in change, interested in doing the work. And this is where we start to see a person being involved in their own hero's journey. They become the hero in their own play. And we might all reflect on our personal journey of recovery and understand where we've been at certain stages, that at points in time, we've been in that animal stage where conditioning and habit are dominating our reality. And then we, through work, essentially through doing the work, we move into this hero's stage. And this is the thing that I want to really talk about tonight. It has to do with taking action. You don't evolve without action. Action is the key. Moving forward on the path requires that we do certain things. We have to take action. And this is written about in all scripture, in all spiritual paths, in all religious paths. It speaks about action. And certainly in the 12-step path, we've heard this so many times. You cannot think your way into better acting. You have to act your way into better thinking. And so this is the thing, as we take action, actions like in our recovery, for example, going to 90 meetings in 90 days, picking up a sponsor, taking on a commitment, working through the steps and doing the reading and the writing of reflecting upon our own experience and our life. By doing this work, what happens? We're taking actions which lead to our personal evolution. You might say, as our teacher Anand likes to say, you might say that our deserving power is going up. Why would our deserving power go up? Because we are taking evolutionary actions that propel us forward along a path, as opposed to repeating the same habits and being stuck in the same ways of thinking and the same conditioning as we were in that first phase, that phase of being in the animal phase. Here in the hero's phase, we've done a little bit of work and we've made some progress. And what's happening here is we're becoming interested in our own journey. It's not because we started to think, wow, I'd really like to be interested in my own journey. No, it happened as a consequence of doing the work. We did the work, and what we noticed was the outcome of that work was we became more interested in our evolutionary process. That's how it works. And this is that exact teaching of we have to take action in order to move ourselves forward. Beautiful. Now, on the topic of forgiveness, now I began with my anger, and I began with my stuckness, with my resentment, and with that idea of I don't know how to work this out, and nobody seems to notice how angry I am, and wow, the world isn't coming to apologize to me. You see, I knew I had to do something to work this out on my own, but I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until I got into recovery that I was finally able to do the work that in a counterintuitive way would move me along an evolutionary path so that I could move into the space of understanding, the space of compassion, planting the seeds which would later bloom as forgiveness in my life. So as I become more interested in my hero's journey, different questions start to pose in my head, different ideas start to come in. And all of a sudden, I'm interested in my process in a deeper way. And this idea about forgiveness starts to take on a different shape. I might have a thought. I wonder what it was about my mother that made it difficult for her to show up in my life when I was a child. or at least for her to show up the way I would have wanted her to. What was going on for that woman? Her name was Ellen. So I call her Ellen so that I don't confuse who she is with the role of mother. I go to her name, Ellen. What was up with Ellen in her teenage years, in her childhood? What happened when she had me and she was now a single mother of 3? What was going on? What were her pressures, her stresses? What were her relationships like? I never thought about that in my adolescence. I truly didn't. But as I started to do this work, and I started to move out of the animal stage of the seeker, and I started to move into the hero stage of the seeker, all of a sudden these questions start to come up. Now, it could be that a teacher posed those questions to me, meaning in human form. Somebody said, hey, have you ever considered that your mom had a really difficult childhood? Or it could have been literally that just as a result of doing the work, that thought came into my head. It still came from a teacher, right? It doesn't matter if it was in human form or if it came as a spiritual download. Just the same way ideas come to all of us, inspiration, God shots, God winks, all of this. Okay. So the point is I start asking better and better questions as I move along my evolutionary process. I'm also passionate. I'm moving into greater and greater interest in my own evolution. And all of a sudden, these new questions are starting to plow the terrain of my life. And I'm starting to get some answers to these questions. I'm starting to have a little bit of compassion and a little bit of understanding. I'm just picking on my mom right now, or my dad, or, there are many, many, many points towards which I could have blamed and complained my life on those people, places, and things. Just for the purpose of our talk tonight, I want you to understand. So with regards to my mom, I started to ask myself questions like, wow, what was her childhood like? Painful, really painful, stressful. Could I not have some compassion that she was not necessarily taken care of in her childhood, and that she was doing the very best she could to deal with the fallout of that very difficult adolescence that she went through, and that as a young woman in her 20s, having 3 children, not having a partner, and being really, really concerned, confused, let's just say frightened about how life was going to end up for her. And as I start to think about those things, I start to see my mother, Ellen, in an entirely different light. And I start to see myself in an entirely different light. And the seeds of forgiveness start to be planted. As I move through my recovery, maybe, and I'm speaking now about, by this point, I'm speaking about 15 years, 20 years into my recovery. I'm fully into the path of yoga. The life path of yoga is lending so much to my recovery work. It's becoming a part of my life. And I'm seeing that there's a steadiness developing now. I'm starting to be exposed to the idea that this recovery thing is not a moment in time, but it's a journey. And that journey is by choice for me going to last my entire life. Not because I have to, but because I wouldn't want it any other way, because I understand the wisdom that comes is the understanding that there can be no stagnancy in this life. We will either progress, we will evolve one way or the other. We will evolve forward and progress, or we will evolve backward and we will regress. There is no standing still in this life. As such, I now recognize that I am somebody who would want to be on the path of recovery, this evolutionary path, and I want to be there always. The third stage of the sadaka, of the one who is achieving, of the one on the path of discovery, is called Deva. Deva, D-E-V-A. This is the stable and grounded stage of the sadaka. This is where we reach a stage where there's no going back. This is when you know, like for me, for example, I understand that I'm done with drugs and alcohol in this life, and I am not ever going to be able to avoid the present moment without feeling that avoidance anymore. It is as if you went through a gateway and you saw something and you can never not see it again. And that's it. And so it's kind of like, I could make a joke and say good news, bad news. The good news is you're responsible for your entire life. The bad news is you're responsible for your entire life. But the truth of the matter is it's only good news. It's only good news is that you've reached that stage at that point where it's like, okay, there's no going back. And in fact, now on this spectrum of forgiveness, now the past events which created a resentment, which left in their wake a weight, a karma that I had to work out or that you will have to work out. The past events, as I remember them, have changed. Literally through the work of evolution, we actually change what? We change the past because we're changing our relationship to what took place. It literally is not the same anymore. And so this evolutionary path is about coming present, fully present. And in this presence, we can truly, truly change our relationship with the past and we can let go of it. And then we solidify our existence in the present moment and we begin to live our life from that place. We thrive in evolution. We thrive in evolution. Change has to happen. We must continue to expand our spiritual life. Does it not tell us this in 12-step literature? It does. Another one in the 12 and 12, we are faced with the pains of trying versus the certain penalties of not. And it's so powerful a statement. We have no choice once we reach this place. We have to move forward. So powerful as we speak about forgiveness. Now let's talk about forgiveness in two sections. Forgiveness of others is where I began, speaking about the being in the prison of anger and the prison of resentment that I was in for so long. Then there's that forgiveness of self. And of course, we all know intuitively, intellectually at least, we know that forgiveness of self is related to forgiveness of others. Forgiveness of others is related to forgiveness of self. And so we'll start there. We'll start with my prison and my inability to forgive. We spoke about how we do the work of awakening. We do the work of illumination, whether that's the 12 steps or we're working on the yogic path or we're involved in a meditation or a contemplation. Just by doing that work, we're going to bring about new conditions, new questions, new possibilities, new trajectories, new circumstances that lead into the field of compassion, therefore the field of forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that happens, what, to us? For us. Are we responsible for it? Can we make it happen? No. Also an ancient teaching, to err is human, to forgive, divine. It's a collaboration with God that allows this forgiveness to take place. It's the process of unfolding that we're describing right here that allows forgiveness to root in one's being so that one can heal from that. And so that's what happened. And I can remember speaking with a teacher of mine who said, how is it with your parents? This teacher understood that my parents had left their body a long time ago. But I understood what he meant. How is your relationship with your parents, even though they've dropped their body a long time ago? And the answer was, I'm free. I love them. They love me. I forgave them. They forgave me. We let each other go in the best way. We set each other free. They couldn't have done that without me. I couldn't have done it without them. And maybe it happened after they left the body. It doesn't matter. But that forgiveness. And I remember that day the teacher said to me, it is a enormous mark, a benchmark of spiritual progress to forgive your parents and to revere them for all that they were and for the struggle that they had and the joys that they had and the gifts that they gave you, which for any one of us are many. And if nothing else, just life, the gift of this life. I know that many of us have had traumatic childhoods and still have traumatic relationships with our parents. And I tell you with all my heart, it is impossible to be free until we work it out. It doesn't mean we have to work it out with them. It means we have to work it out. And I know that you know that this is true, because I knew it was true 35 years ago when I was suffering in anger so painful, I couldn't imagine how it was going to end. And I knew then that I couldn't have a life of meaning if I didn't work this out, but I didn't have the way, because it wasn't intuitive. There was no manual. Nobody could say, well, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. It wasn't like that. It isn't like that. So this is what part of what came in India this time was talking about the concept of forgiveness. And I want to tell you how it came up in India, and that'll really bring it all home. Our incredible group, our Recovery 2.0 group, as you know, because I've told you, we sit in retreat, we sit in circle every morning. First, we do a 1-hour yoga practice that we refer to as sadhana. That's our daily commitment to meet our own true self, each of us. And there we are together in community doing sadhana, and then we sit in a circle. By the way, I can't think of a better way to start the day. It's so powerful. So there we are in our circle, and each day, as we do in our meetings, the group suggests a theme or a topic or a subject for discussion. And on day 2, I believe it was, the theme of forgiveness came up. And let me just tell you that what ensued in that meeting was nothing short of the most raw, vulnerable, honest shares that I can remember in a meeting. And I thought to myself, wow, we all need to work on this concept of forgiveness. Let's dig in. So we spent the day on forgiveness. Here's what came through. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to self-forgiveness for a moment, and we'll see how it relates to forgiveness in general. As people in recovery from addiction, we've all done things that we're not proud of. No question. There's nobody, none of us can look back at our history and say, yep, squeaky clean, just gorgeous. I was always right on point. No, we made a lot of mistakes, and some of us made some very big mistakes. I'm at the top of that list. Now, just the same way I have to forgive others, I have to find a way to forgive myself if I'm to have a successful life. Now we're in the realm of remorse. Remorse, I would say, is resentment turned upon oneself, feeling remorseful about your own behavior, about a way that you showed up or didn't show up in the world. Okay. So all of us, we're on a level playing field together because we can all say, yep, I did some things. Wow. And beyond our community, I think all human beings, we miss the mark quite a bit. And so a lot of us have done some terrible things, painful things. The difference is that we're in a circle of people right here who are willing to look at those things and are willing to try to heal from those things, learn from those things, and move on. Really good way to be. Okay. Before we learn the lessons of forgiveness, we tend, or some of us can tend, to get into guilt and stay there for a long, long time. Or even worse, to get into shame and stay there for a long, long time. So we want to look at this. Now, guilt first. Guilt is a necessary ingredient in any person's evolution. Now, we've established that evolution is important, critical. We can't stay still. We're either going to go back or we're going to go forward. We've chosen to go forward on our path of discovery. Evolution is very important. Guilt is one of the most important ingredients in that recipe of evolution. Why? It shows us where we need to make a correction. So the great statement, one of the greatest statements I've ever heard, this came from Anand. It's verbatim. It's important that you forgive yourself, but not too quickly. But not too quickly. Because if you just forgive yourself after hurting somebody, after doing a bunch of really heinous stuff, after being unconscious, that's not called forgiveness. You're not forgiving yourself, you're forgetting. So we don't want to forget. No. We need to stay conscious for a minute and say, okay, we missed the mark. We need to feel the feeling of guilt. We need to learn what the feeling is trying to tell us. And then we need to move on. Anybody who feels that they just simply need to get past guilt because they're shame-based and, oh gosh, I can't stand to look at anything. No. The way out of your shame, the way out of your guilt is to sit with your guilt and learn what it needs to teach you. There's a big difference between guilt and shame. Shame is a very twisted, deep form of kind of a deeper level than guilt. Shame is, I'm bad. There's something wrong with me. I'm wrong. I don't belong here. That's shame. Guilt is, I did something wrong. Okay. Well, we came here to make mistakes. Didn't you know? We came here to make mistakes. And so when you feel a sense of guilt, this is when we slow down. We take a look. We speak to teachers. We speak to our guides, our sponsors, our therapists, our friends, our trusted friends. We speak to people in recovery and we run it by them. Or we sit and we contemplate and we have a contemplation between ourselves and our highest self, our spirit, higher power. And we learn what the guilt is trying to tell us. Oh, I made a mistake there. I yelled at that person. It was unnecessary. I hurt that person. I did this. I did that. I missed the mark in my communication. I missed the mark in my tone. I hurt myself. When we are able to learn what the guilt is trying to tell us, we are right on the pulse of evolution. We are using the recipe ingredient of guilt to propel us forward. That's the purpose of guilt. That's the way we will not have to stay in that guilt any longer. That's how we will prevent the guilt from transmuting itself into this dark, weird stuff called shame. We never have to go there. So it's I'm familiar, as we're all familiar, with the person who, they even speak about this person, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the farmer after the tornado. They liken alcoholism to a tornado, and they say, it's like the farmer coming out of the tornado cellar, and saying, well, looks like, there's no wind blowing anymore, isn't it? Everything's fine, except this person's alcoholism blew the entire home and family away. They haven't taken any responsibility for it, haven't learned anything from it. They're just skating right past it as if everything's just fine. Well, that's irresponsible. That's selfish. That's self-centered. That's hurtful to other people's hearts. And that's not a way that we can learn from our guilt. And if we refuse to learn from our guilt, we will either stay stuck or we will be in shame, even worse. Shame, as you know, is addiction's favorite food. It's looking for your shame. Your shame is like a magnet to addiction. And so we stay stuck right there. So once the behavior becomes corrected, this is what we call aligning personal will with divine will, aligning ourselves with the will of God, if you will, or spirit. Forgiveness will become your ally, but only after the correction is made, after you learned what you needed to learn. So we don't want to forgive ourselves too quickly, but also we don't want to forgive ourselves too slowly. So once you understand this process of forgiveness and the purpose of guilt in your life, you no longer have to run from it. You no longer have to be afraid of making mistakes. You can own your mistakes. You can learn from the mistakes, and it really becomes part of our path forward. This is part of our orientation towards life. We understand that we make mistakes. The idea is to learn from them, not make them again if we can help it, and then move forward along our path. If we make a mess along the way, we try to clean it up. This is really the main teaching around self-forgiveness. And we really need to forgive ourselves often. Forgive ourselves often. We have the ability to look within ourselves so that we can see what we want to be, and we can see what we don't want to be. And we can even look at our mistakes with reverence, and we can bow to them. We bow to them as teachers because they are teachers, and they're going to carry us forward if we get into right alignment with them. And here I invoke the words of my teacher's teacher. I live in a constant shower of self-forgiveness. I live in a constant shower of self-forgiveness. I'm not forgiving myself too quickly, but also not too slowly. And I'm learning what I need to learn when I make mistakes. I also become more skillful. And as we were speaking about at the beginning, as we move down the path, better and better questions start presenting themselves. Newer, more empowering ideas, concepts, possibilities present themselves. New doors open that we can walk through, and we can set ourselves free and be truly, truly free on a one day at a time basis. This is recovery. This is the life path of recovery. It's also known as the life path of yoga. And tonight I'd like to finish with this idea. One of the great teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, that ancient and beautiful text from India. The Bhagavad Gita was in a epic called Mahabharata. It's one of the pieces of that great, great text. And one of the biggest takeaways in the Bhagavad Gita is this concept. Krishna, the embodiment of God, is speaking to Arjuna, who is asking the right questions. Let's put it that way. Like us, asking the right questions. And Arjuna is asking, how shall I move forward? What is my duty? What is my job? Essentially, how can I make a decision here? I'm not sure who I am or what to do. And Krishna says, establish yourself in yoga and then act. If you do that, you cannot create any karma from your action. The action will be clean. It will not leave karma in its wake. It will not leave unfinished business, pain, suffering, hurt in its wake. Establish yourself in yoga, the place where everything connects. Establish yourself in truth. Establish yourself in presence. Establish the connection with your true self. And then act from that place. This is the great teaching that I will take away from India this year. And that has been a teaching there for me in the past. And I will revisit it and revisit it and revisit it again and again and again and again. Because I can look at my own experience and I can tell you, when I establish myself in yoga and I act from that place, there's no hangover. It's pure, it's clear, it's guided, and it's without any debris left behind it. It's just a clean action. This is our job. This is what we're doing. I want to be very clear with you. I think you're here because you're interested in these kinds of ideas and in living a life where you can be truly free. This teaching is not for somebody from India, for somebody who's into yoga, for someone who's into recovery or not. This is a teaching that is applicable, relevant, timely, critically important right now for every human being. You don't need to be any way. You don't need to look any way. These teachings are universal. And the question is simply this: can we hear it? Can we understand it? How can we work with it and realize it in our life? This is Recovery 2.0. I'm super grateful to you for joining us tonight and being a part of this. This is the first of 2 lectures. I will be back. I believe I'm back next Monday night. The people that tell me what I'm supposed to do will tell me. But I think I'm back again next week. And so I leave you with this. We are absolutely blessed. Why? Because we say so. That's why. We are blessed because we say so. Now we live that. We have each other. We have a community. We have teachings. We have a lot of love. We have a lot of possibility. We have a desire to serve others. How can you possibly fail? Only if you say, no, I'm not willing. No, I won't do the work. No, I don't want to evolve anymore. And I know that if you're here listening to this, that's not you. So I have a big announcement to make before we finish tonight. And this is, please listen up carefully. With all of these things in mind, I want you to know about a very special offering that is a completely free offering. And I want every one of you and all of your families and all of your friends to come and be a part of this. It is called the Life Beyond Addiction Online Conference. Please write this down. It takes place from May the 8th through the 12th. I'm going to give you a visual right now. I'll give you a visual right now. Hold on. And you'll get a sense of it right away. The URL that you go to register for free is lifebeyondaddiction.com. Now check this out right here. Check this out right here. We're going to share screen. I just want you to get a visual. Here we are, lifebeyondaddiction.com. Okay, this is the conference. Now take a look at who's in it. I have had in-depth conversations with every one of these people. Dr. Gabor Mate, Pandit Rajmani Tiganayat, Sadhviji, Bruce Lipton, Reverend Michael Beckwith, Nikki Myers, Dr. Richard Schwartz, Durga Leela, Dr. Zach Bush, Guru Singh, Elena Brower, Guru Prem, Rolf Gates, Anand Mehrotra, James Nestor, Heather Monroe, Aka Jackson, Kia Miller, Cease Sykes, Chris Thrasher, Dr. Andrew Newberg, Dr. Lisa Miller, Rabbi Mark Borovitz, William Moyers, Jeff Krasno, Herb Kagan, Dr. Nick Jensen, Kevin Griffin, Kimberly Berlin, and there are even a few more. And the questions that I ask these people is all about the concept of life beyond addiction. What now? What next? How do we get there? How do we overcome this challenge? How do we overcome that challenge? How did you do it? What is, psychology, neurology? What can we learn from spirituality? Please come. There is no barrier to entry. Just come, send out the link to everybody you know, and come be with us May the 8th through the 12th. That's it. I'm pouring my heart and soul into this because I was a person in recovery suffering. And I have seen so many others suffer, not in addiction, but in recovery from addiction. And since I found a way through, and you guys are finding a way through, we are going to help others to find a way through even more. So please come. Lifebeyondaddiction.com. I love you. I love you. I love you. We're going to do it. We're doing it. It's happening right in the here and right in the now. The only place it ever happens. Okay. I'm looking at the chat bar. Everybody, anything cool? Anything come up for you guys? We good? We solid for tonight? I'm seeing the word grace. I'm seeing the word love. I'm seeing the word good. I'm seeing the word see you soon. I love it. All right, you guys. So much love and blessing. Let's bring our palms together at the heart center and allow the eyes to close. And we'll close with the Recovery 2.0 prayer. Inhale to begin. Universe, put us in the places you want us to be, with the people you want us to be with, doing the things you want us to do. Thank you for the joys and challenges of my life. Amen, Satnam, and Namaste. Beautiful. Gratitude for all of you. Thank you for being here tonight and holding your space in this sacred circle. I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed to sit in circle with each of you. So wonderful, wonderful. Have a good evening and we'll connect again real soon. Keep an eye, especially when you register for lifebeyondaddiction.com, keep an eye out for some really important emails that are going to come, which I think you'll find very inspiring and will help all of us to get ready for what's coming. Okay. Blessings and love to each of you. Satnam, and I'll see you soon.